we can actually run what we call a DeFi Tax Benchmark. It's an offering we have, which you might consider if you're a larger DeFi investor, say over 100,000. We can run your numbers against all the systems and we'll document it. Two things are happening. One is you've exercised the requirements of the law to do due diligence and reasonable care in putting together your tax return, because we ran it against all the services. What more, Judge, could we possibly have done? Yes, we did the most. And my taxpayer did his best job reporting his income as he understood it. 3 years from now, the IRS is auditing you, and let's say they use Zen Ledger. Right now, Zen Ledger is you can see here these numbers. Today, Zen Ledger is doing 2.9 million on this guy. A couple of months ago, they said he had 9.3 million. So what will happen is we'll come back to the IRS and say, IRS, you're telling us that my taxpayer, he had $4 million worth of income, but you said it was 3 million a couple of years ago, plus you said it was 9 million. So how can we presume, IRS, that the number you're giving us now is correct? What I'm doing from a legal point of view is we're placing the burden of proof on the IRS to prove that the taxpayer is incorrect, because we will have 9 data points, possibly more, against the IRS, which has 1 data point, which we can disprove. So when you get to court, if the IRS can't prove it, then the taxpayer is free. Our strategy is basically a multi-year defensive strategy. We think it's a phenomenal, powerful strategy for winning in an audit. And again, everything we do is about protecting people in an audit, because it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so this is a great tool to use. Now, does that mean everybody needs to buy this? No, it doesn't. I would say if you're a large trader in crypto, in DeFi particularly, it's something you might want to consider to protect yourself. Client one, this is data from 2020. He ran maybe 2,000 transactions through DeFi. Predominantly, he was using Curve and Balancer and that sort of thing. As you can see here, now we ran these same benchmarks on these companies on different dates. The most recent one we got the results here in the second column from the left, and you'll see the numbers range here from 3,000 to $1.2 million in gain. All right. Now, you might have picked one of these services and you have a predicament. The answer you're going to see is either way too low or it's way too high. Now, everybody wants to pay taxes, but we want to pay taxes on the fair amount of income that we made. And we used to trust these services, and now we're at a point where the answers are wildly inaccurate. So if we look at Coin Tracker, that's the third one down, we see right now they're coming up with 625,000. Back at the end of October, they were into a $187 loss. And before that, they were at 917,000. Let's look at the next example. This client heavily used an application called Yearn Finance, and he did also some liquidity pooling. He had about 4,000 transactions. Here you can see the answers range from about 1.3 million up to 12 million. The reason we have a question mark at Bitcoin.tax, and it's good to talk about this. Bitcoin.tax had a problem with one coin. And as a result, their output was 23 billion. All right. That just gives you an idea of how one thing can really upset the ability of these applications. So we just put question marks in there because we didn't delete that coin off of anyone else. It's just they struggled with it and we didn't want to disadvantage them. But if you're a taxpayer, you have to make a decision. You have to say, do I believe the application is right? And people say, well, how do I calculate how much income to report when I'm an active DeFi trader? And again, by active, I mean, not just simple swapping, but more advanced functions. And I would have to say that ultimately, any number you come from here, you're going to basically fact check it against your own feelings on how much income you made, your own inner approximation of how much gain you experienced from those investment activities. And to the extent that the numbers you see here differ from your inner expectation, you're going to feel that it's incorrect. So ultimately, at this point, you're going to have to go with reporting on your tax return a bulk number which is based on your own estimate of how much gain income you made. Now let's look at the third client. This last client was very interesting. He did some Yearn Finance, but he also liked to do a lot of ICOs. He bought a lot of brand new coins and speculated on them. So about 6,000 transactions. And as you can see here, the numbers are ranging from a $2.9 million loss to as high as 7 million in gain. So we're looking at a $10 million spread in the answers. I mean, that should be very disturbing. If you look at, again, number three, we know CoinTracker has been revising their web application. I mean, they went from a $337,000 gain down over 3 million. If we look at token tax, there's very interesting token tax. You see, now they're at 7 million, but 3 months ago, they're at 29,000. I mean, they went from being the lowest to the way out there and the highest. Look at Zen Ledger. They're down to 239 when they used to be at 5.5 million. So you can see these guys are aggressively tweaking their applications. These aren't tweaks. These are radical adjustments. And this is why everybody should be frustrated. So how do you defend an estimate in an audit? Now, estimates happen all the time in business returns. So don't be distressed by that.